Hey, Chrissy, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Love that response. I'm doing great.
That's fantastic.
Sounds like you're really happy for me. I love it.
Yeah. I bought tickets today to Japan, so I think I did.
I'm jelly. Can I come?
Quit your job because I'm going for like 2.5 weeks.
I mean,
Almost three. It's really 3 weeks, let's be real.
if I quit my job, are you going to bankroll me? Say yes.
I can't bankroll myself. The amount of credit card debt and student loan debt that I have, can't help myself. I don't know what I'm doing, but I was like,
I want to go to Japan.
yeah,
Fine. I'll figure it out. I'm going to go on like Fear Drop or something and watch tickets and see if I can just meet you there randomly.
let's go.
Okay. So let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Spoiler Alert. It's an HEA. I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Julie. We are here to talk about It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover.
Yes, and it's a very interesting time to be talking about this book as it is coming to theaters this fall. It Ends With Us will
This
be coming.
fall or this summer?
I saw an updated date where it said August 9th, and I then saw something else where it said like, I don't know, maybe I'm gaslighting myself.
Is this like the House of the Dragon where they push the date back and back and back until eventually it comes out?
Maybe it is August. Yeah, August
Is
9th.
August summer or is it August fall?
August 9th is still technically summer because Labor
Okay.
Day issues in like fall return to school, but most people are already back in school by August. And then fall really isn't until the end of September. Like the official season begins, I believe.
What are seasons?
They're not existing at the moment. So, yay, climate change.
Have you seen the trailer yet for the movie?
I have because I was watching Hulu, something on Hulu, or I was watching something on YouTube, and it was the ad. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess.
I haven't seen it yet.
I was watching like Criminal Minds, and then it was like, here's the trailer.
In the middle of Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
That works. Okay. Well, I want to watch it now.
Okay. Let's watch it then.
Okay. Do you have it open?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On three, we're going to press play. Ready? Are you ready?
I am.
Don't sound so excited. One, two, three, go.
We gather stones, never
I
knowing
haven't seen
what
Blake
they'll
since Gossip
mean.
Girl. I love her.
I don't have a comment to that. She's
Hey, Lily,
great in
you
Gossip
wanna do the
Girl. I
honors?
don't know
No,
about
you go ahead. I
film.
can take it in from here.
So Blake is Lily.
Oh, that's my brother Ryle.
The first official customer.
Well, you'd have to buy
That's
something
not
to be
how I
considered a
pictured
customer.
Route at
Right now, you're
all.
just loitering.
But I love the decor at the floral shop.
It
We all
matches
have
the
an
bug.
idea
Yeah.
of what love can be.
I want to see you again.
They went out
Now you see
doing
me.
karaoke.
You know what?
Okay.
I don't remember that.
They did not do that in the book. That is a
You
new
know,
scene.
producers.
But 15 seconds. That's all it takes.
This looks like Route now.
Completely change everything.
I'm so sorry.
Is that Taylor Swift?
I don't know.
I think it is her singing.
Atlas.
Sure.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
What are you
I
doing?
didn't picture Atlas like that either.
I thought Atlas was gonna be hot.
Really hot.
Yeah, we're just kids then.
That young Blake kind of looked like Blake.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
But
that's Ryle.
Not like the Atlas that his hair.
What a jerk. You tripped.
Two, I love you. Two,
Is this Taylor Swift too?
one day.
It must be, yes. It sounds like her. but I can't
She loved.
Confirm that. So
What would you say?
Blake does not look good there.
None of this is your fault.
Oh, Lisa.
Hard as this choice is. You break the pattern.
So they just tell you everything that
Like
happens in
breaks
the
us.
preview. We don't even need to read the book. We've seen it. And no, we don't need to watch the movie. We've visually seen the movie.
yes, but I guess when you are making a movie or a show based on a book, what are you really hiding? It's like Game of Thrones or House of Dragon or even Harry Potter.
True.
Like if you haven't read it now,
My partner refuses to watch previews of movies if we're going to see it because he's like, I've seen it. I'm not going to want to watch it now.
completely fair.
So I think he's imprinting on me. I'm like, I watched the movie, all 2 minutes and 22 seconds of it.
With this preview, he would be right.
Mhm. So before we get into the book, there are some trigger warnings that everyone should know.
Yes, this book deals with several heavy topics. So there will be themes of suicidal ideation, domestic violence, sexual assault, mental abuse, and gun violence. So if you are not in a great headspace, or if you do not want to hear any of these topics, we'd recommend skipping this episode and tuning back in another week. This will be a heavy episode, and we'll see you next week for another book if this is not one you want to listen to.
And for those who are going to stay and take part, Naked Truth, it was kind of a hard read for me.
I had to read this 2 times because the first time that I read it, I knew something bad was going to happen based on the description, but I didn't know what exactly, like when it would happen exactly in the book. So I read it in one straight sitting, meaning I missed a lot of parts. So I had to go back and reread. But it was either I read it straight through in one sitting, or it was going to take me a week or 2 weeks to
don't have-
complete.
Time to sit down in one sitting and read a book this long.
Well, do you know what I did in order to do that? I started reading it last Sunday afternoon around it's like 1 p.m. and then I went to bed like at 3 a.m.
Oh, so you did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I started on the couch, then I was like, okay, dinner, shower, went to bed, continued reading until Monday morning at like 3 a.m. I was dead the next day.
I mean, this is what you can do when you work from home. I
I work from
guess.
space. I'm
Okay.
neither here nor there. But yeah, I could function. But I just had to read it in whole.
Well, it took me maybe 2 weeks because I had it on my Libby and I forgot I was supposed to read it. And then when I started reading it, they said you have 8 hours left. And then I was like, I can't read this in 8 hours. So they took it back. And then I was next in line to get it again. And then I had to refresh my mind and continue. So with this book, Lily, the main character, she makes me think of what my dream job would be if I could do anything I wanted. And other than being a stay-at-home Julie, I think I would want to own a bakery. And she has this dream of opening up a floral shop. But, she's like, my name is Lily Bloom. It's kind of like, no, that's not your name.
Yeah, her parents set her up to have the career trajectory that she has chosen.
What would your dream job be?
That is a great question. My dream job would be to work for a travel-based company.
Doing what?
Literally, it could be anything. It could be working with like writers.
So the book starts where we are with Lily Bloom, our main character, and she is on a rooftop on the day of her father's funeral. Her mom asked her to give the eulogy, where she had to say something, positive about her dad, and
Yeah.
she had nothing to say.
She had to say
So she
5 positive things about him, 5 nice things.
and she stood up there in front of everybody and looked at them and then sat back down.
No, her mom set her uncle up to grab her off of the stage because she thought she couldn't get through it. She's too overcome with emotion.
But Lily just had nothing nice to say. And our mom always said, if you have nothing nice to say,
Don't say it,
say nothing at all.
but I typically say it.
Yeah, you say it. I listen to her because I'm the good child.
Sure you are.
So Lily is sitting on this rooftop, like on the edge of it, just kind of looking out at the city. They're in Boston. And she's kind of in the corner, and this man comes out dressed in like expensive clothes. And it looks like he's having a really, really bad day. And when he sees her, he's like, please don't jump. And she's like, I'm not jumping, I'm just sitting. And when they start to talk, he's like, oh man, Lily, nice to meet you. You're really hot. Want to bang? And she's like, I don't do one night stands. Thanks, but no thanks. And they start making out, and she's like, I promise you, like one time with me, and you're going to be hooked the rest of your life. So let's just not even. And he gets a call going back to the hospital because he is a resident there, and he disappears from her life for months.
So Lily leaves the rooftop and heads home. And when she reaches her apartment, she begins looking through the journals that she brought back from Maine with her. And in her journals, she would typically, instead of like addressing it like Dear Diary or like Dear Self, she would address her journal entries to Ellen DeGeneres because at the time, the Ellen show was on and Lily would watch it every day after school.
Did you ever watch Ellen?
No. Like I've seen the clips of it. I've seen those like I guess like the viral clips from Ellen, but no, I was not tuning in. The Oprah show raised me, not Ellen. And
When was Ellen even on?
like 2005 to like I think like 2005, 2006 to at least like 2019, 2020. The Ellen show like ended recently.
I
Hold on.
remember the controversy.
Yes, there was lots that. Yeah, Ellen started in 2003 and ended in 2022. Um, so yeah, it's a really long stretch of TV that she had there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was the Oprah show. The
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey show.
Mhm.
Should not have been watching it as a small child,
We
but
watched it with our grandma.
we did.
That Days of Our Lives, The Young and the Restless, General Hospital.
Oh God, daytime soap operas truly
They're so
raised me.
great. If I could watch every show that came on at 12 o'clock, I would just be great.
No, but it's the 12 to 2 p.m. art.
Maybe 12:30 because you have to watch the news at 12.
You'd want to skip that.
And then it's like The Young and the Restless at 12:30.
Does it even still come on? We need to check.
Oh my God. Let me start recording them. I mean, I don't have like a DVR, but
You have no space.
I can always make space.
Best of
The Young
luck.
and the Restless. They have 50 seasons.
Yikes.
It started in 1973.
Yeah, no thanks.
No, they're on season 51. It started this week, the 17th.
Really?
Oh my gosh. Oh, wait. No, it says they will add several more years. 2027 to 2028 will be the 55th season
I'm
and
glad
the
to
final
know.
season.
That makes me so happy that there is some grandparent or someone out there still watching it.
I don't
And
think the actors are young anymore.
oh, they've definitely cycled out because like they would do that. Like, but most of those people, like that was their job forever. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to like do a deep dive into this later on.
That's like the girl that was a housewife of Beverly Hills, Elaine. Was it Elaine?
I don't
Disregard. Let's keep going forward in the book. Sorry, that was my
so
fault.
you're fine. So in her journal entries, she wrote about her life in high school and an old friend and boyfriend named Atlas. And Atlas lived in an abandoned house behind Lily's home. And she noticed him like sneaking in there one day and ended up befriending him. She let him shower. She gave him clean clothes that belonged to her dad. And he began hanging out with her like every day after school, where they would watch the Ellen show together and just talk.
Lily tells us that growing up, her father was abusive towards her mom, physically and emotionally. And sometimes she would insert herself into the arguments because then he would stop abusing his wife. So, this is why at the funeral, she had nothing nice to say. Her whole life being raised by him, she saw terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we fast forward because Lily's always wanted a flower shop. And she buys this old building and she's fixing it up and she's kind of putting it together, making it into the store that she wants it to be.
Yeah, and something to note here is that she only has this flower shop because of her dad passing away. She gets a life insurance amount like from his estate, and like she uses her inheritance there to buy and create the shop. I guess it's like the one positive thing that he left her, which is like financial support. So Lily now has her flower shop that she's named after herself, Lily Bloom. And as she's setting up her flower shop and chatting with her mom, in walks this girl named Alicia. And immediately she is like, "What are you doing here? Are you hiring? I'd love a job." And she's able to convince Lily to hire her and immediately starts they're cleaning, moving boxes and the tables and chairs out of the way. And while they're doing that, Lily ends up falling and hurts her ankle. And immediately then Alicia calls for help because she's unable to. Elisa, holy shit. Elisa calls her brother and her husband, who are down the street at a bar where she left them, to come over and help get Lily up, as Lily's just stuck there on the ground, following her fall. And in walks Riles and Marshall.
Ryle and Marshall.
Sorry. And in walks Ryle and Marshall.
And Lily's like, "I know this guy from the rooftop a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago."
It's 6
And
months ago.
6 months ago. And of course, he's like, "I remember you too, because I haven't gotten you out my mind, Lily Bloom." And while he's, doctoring her up, he's like, "I still want to sleep with you if, you're down for that." And she says, "Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. This man is too persistent. It makes me feel icky." And it gets ickier because a week later, she's at home, minding her business, and a knock appears at her door, or her door knocks.
Someone knocks at her door.
That's how we say that sentence. Someone knocks at her door, and it's Ryle. And he's like out of breath and disheveled in his scrubs. And he's like, "I've been looking for you. I've knocked at 29 doors trying to find you because we have to have sex because I need to get you out of my mind."
He literally is a stalker.
Yeah, because she didn't even say what building she lived in.
She did. She told him she pointed the night on the rooftop. She pointed out to him which building she lived in and how like it didn't have rooftop
I thought it was
access.
just the general direction.
No, she pointed it out specifically because she was like giving him like an unknown Boston secret of like a building that had a house on top of it. And then she was like, "I live over there in between those two buildings." So she was specific, but she did not invite you over.
No. So after he knocks on 29 doors and he finds her, he's on his knees begging her, saying, "Please, please, please, Lily, let's just sleep together one time." And Lily has this weakness for a man in uniform or a man in scrubs. So she's like, "Okay, fine, we can do it just one time, and then that's it." So he waits for her on her bed and she goes to shower. And what got me in this part is that this man is in scrubs.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in scrubs, you are in the hospital. If you're in the hospital, you're dirty.
He's a neurosurgeon.
So he's dirty.
Yeah. Splatter, particles.
He's laying on my bed
with scrubs. And you don't change into fresh scrubs to leave the hospital. You're wearing the same scrubs you were wearing.
Yeah. Like if you change into street clothes.
That's what most folks typically do.
So gross. And he's worked 48 hours and has not slept. So while he's sleeping in her clean bed with his dirty clothes, um,
Outside dirty blood
oh,
or
I can't even.
splattered clothing. Disgusting.
Like, I don't even sit on my comforter with outside clothes.
There you go.
Okay, so when she gets out the shower, he's literally under her covers in his clothes, still sleeping. So she's like, okay, cool. We're gonna go to sleep. And she sleeps. He wakes up the next morning. He has to go back to the hospital. So he leaves and no sex is had still.
And she then does not hear from Ryle for over 2 months. He disappears from her life as he promised. And Lily is now about to open her brand new flower shop. And she's worked so hard to put it together. And on their soft launch or like soft opening day, in walks Elise. This is it Elise?
Lisa.
Elisa. Jesus. In walks Elisa's brother, Riles.
Why don't you just say in walks Ryle and stop giving him an S? Ryle.
Ryle. Sorry. So on the first day of Lily's flower shop opening, in walks Ryle after she's not seen him for over 2 months. And he's her first customer. And he also specifically pays in cash because he wants her to frame his dollar that he's giving to her. But something interesting to note here, his purchase is a bouquet of purple lilies, and he addresses the card like, when you get a bouquet, you can typically write who's it going to and then like write a note, and he writes on it, make it stop, and then addresses it to the flower shop.
I can't with him. Ryle, I can't make it stop. You go make it stop, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he writes. And he leaves, and his sister's like, huh, what does this even mean? This makes no sense. Who did he write this to? Why did he send it to the flower shop? And Lily's just like, so weird. I'll just keep these in my office until, you hear back from him and like where we need to send it.
They end up going out to, well, Lily has plans later that week to go out to dinner with her mom. And Ryle is around and says, oh, can I come with you? And she's like, sure. Are we missing something?
Yes, because they only get together because Lily goes to God. She goes
Elisa's
to
birthday.
Yeah, she goes to Elisa's birthday, and it's because of that night they become seeing each other. So you do have to say that because that's what then ushers in the relationship that leads to all the hellscape.
So Elisa and Lily are becoming really great friends, and Elisa invites Lily to her birthday party at the penthouse. When Lily gets there with her friend, she's on the lookout for him, extra nervous and jumpy because she knows that he lives with Elisa and Marshall.
Yep.
So she's looking around, waiting to see him.
And of course,
And
he's not there. He's just
no,
hiding somewhere, likely watching her.
absolutely watching her. And the guy that she brought, that's just a friend. And eventually he shows up behind her and he's like, oh, you brought someone? And she's like, just a friend.
Yeah.
But I'm actually leaving now. And in her turn to leave,
Also, before she leaves, she notices a picture on the wall.
oh my God, I
That's
forgot
like
about the
this
picture.
distorted, blown up image, and she's looking at it, and he comes over and he's like asking her opinion on it. And of course, like it does click for her that that's her. That's her on the roof. And he zoomed in so that no one could recognize her. And she's like, whoa.
So they've spoken 3 times in the last 6 months.
Mhm.
When he met her, when he fixed her ankle, when he sent the flowers. And all this time, he's had this gigantic photo of her at home.
Yeah.
They don't even have each other's phone number, I think.
No, not at this current time.
My God. Okay. So she says, I'm leaving. And he's like, no, you're not. And he picks her up caveman style and takes her into his room, his suite in the penthouse.
It's a suite. It's a studio apartment in the penthouse apartment.
Honestly, I was like, wait, what? His room's with an S. And she ends up spending the night. Nothing happens, but in the morning when she wakes up, she goes to make coffee,
Mhm.
and Elisa's like, hey, girl, what was going on.
Yeah.
And Lily kind of gives her a rundown, and Elise is kind of taken aback because her brother has never been serious with any girl for as long as, their adult life. And she and Ryle get into a disagreement because really Lisa's like, this is my friend.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you my opinion because, well, that's my sibling and I love them. They don't have a great track record for relationships, and I value my friendship most of all here. So I'm gonna be your advocate.
Absolutely. So fast forward a little bit. Lily has plans to go out with her mom to dinner to this new restaurant, and Ryle joins along. So when they get there, of course, her mom is like, oh, he's a doctor. Okay, I can't wait to know more about him because, ooh, a neurosurgeon. Oh my goodness.
She's like, Lily. That's me trying to be like an excited mom.
You better. So the server that walks up is Atlas, the Atlas from her teenage years, the Atlas that was her first love and her best friend for so long. And she's like, what? And they instantly recognize each other, even though it's been 9 years. And he takes like their drink order and never returns. So she goes to the bathroom and she's like, Atlas? And he's like, Lily? And they're like, oh my goodness. And they kind of catch up.
So she catches up with Atlas in the hallway and goes back to dinner. The dinner is fantastic, and she says,
Best food ever.
yeah, they said it's the best food ever, the best restaurant in Boston. And she walks, her and Ryle rock her mother out to her car, and then Ryle hops in an Uber. And as she finishes kissing him goodbye and walking towards her car, she sees Atlas leaning against her car. And, she initially is scared, full on, jumps back, grabs her chest, like, oh my God, who is this stranger? And Atlas saw her say goodbye to Ryle, and he's like, so who's that? And she's like, oh, that's Ryle. We've known each other a year. And her response here to me, I was like, you did not have to say you've known him a year, because it sounds
Not
like you've
at
been
all.
dating close to a year, which then leads to Atlas to respond back being like, oh, that's great. I've also been with someone named Cassie, and we've also been together almost a year. And she's like, punch to the heart. He's happy. He's in a relationship, and he has a job. He must have a home, so he's good. He doesn't need me, and we don't need to speak any further. And yeah, they say goodbye and go their separate ways.
Ryle and Lily are dating, and we fast forward in time. He's spending a lot of time at her apartment. And one night she makes him a casserole and he brings home some really good wine. And they are just relaxing, having a good time, and drinking a lot. And they forget the casseroles in the oven until they start to smell it. So Ryle goes in to take the casserole out the oven, but he forgets to put on oven mitts. And Lily is giggling because she's like drunk and silly and like, how did you forget to put on oven mitts? And Ryle is very upset that he's being laughed at because his hands are his life since he's a neurosurgeon. And he shoves Lily and she ends up hitting her eye on like the corner of the counter. And, of course, she's stunned because somebody's put their hands on her. And immediately, Ryle is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was a reflex. I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry. I'm not like your father. And he tends to Lily instead of, looking at his hands. So she's kind of like, oh, he's putting me first. He really does mean it. I trust him. And they both, at this point, share that they're in love with one another.
Yeah. But also, like, he like just immediately, like, he apologizes, yes, and she's having flashbacks of her own parents and like hearing her own father like apologize to her mother after he would similarly shove her or hit her. And Ryle, I feel like in this part of the book, like, Ryle love bombs her intentionally to like move forward. And then
Mhm.
also like he love bombs her and uses sex to be like, see, we're fine. Like, you know, like we're just moving ahead. Like we both love each other enough to be like, we've hurt one another because he cut his hand on the glass from the casserole dish, and she has the bruise and well, is it a bruise or a cut on her lip, on her face from this?
She has a cut.
She's a cut. Okay.
Yeah, because as we move on the next day, they are going back to the restaurant where she saw Atlas the first time, because now Elisa and Marshall want to go there because the food is so great. And of course, because life, Atlas is there again, and he walks up to the table and he looks at Ryle's hand
Mhm.
and Lily's face, and immediately he's like, oh, so he put his hands on you. And you can see him get visibly upset and walk away. Lily goes to the bathroom.
She's full on
And
panicking.
absolutely. And Atlas comes in and he's like, did he do that to you? And she's trying to explain, it wasn't like that. I
Yep.
promise, no. And
He
he's
reads
like,
her immediately.
yeah, he's like, you're your mother. I didn't think you'd be your mother, but you're your mother.
Well, he's like, you're lying. Break up with him and leave him immediately.
And of course, Atlas is met with Ryle, who's like, what? What are you guys doing in the bathroom together? What is
Yeah.
happening here? And he starts to Hulk out.
Yeah.
And Lily's apologizing, saying, no, it's not like that. He's an old friend. And Ryle realizes, oh, this is the Atlas that she told me about, who was the homeless boy who she felt sorry for. And he says some really mean things to Atlas to try and make him feel bad. And they leave.
They head home that night, and Lily promises that nope, it's only Ryle she wants, and Atlas is just someone from her past. And then the following day, Lily heads into the flower shop, and while her and Elise are at work, Atlas shows up. And initially, she's like, "Do I let him in? Do I show him into your office? Do I not? Because we've both sworn to my brother that like we will never go to this restaurant or talk to Atlas again." And Atlas comes to her shop to apologize to Lily first for comparing Lily to her mother, and also to extend to her an offer of help if she ever needs it. He says, take my phone number down, and if you ever need me, I will be there to.
So he doesn't say take my phone number down, but he actually writes it down and puts
Yeah.
it inside her phone case.
Yes, he writes his number down on a sticky note and puts the sticky note into her phone case because he himself comes from a family that has had domestic abuse and knows that it's better to like have something written than to put something in your phone where like someone could go through it and see your saved contacts. Because I feel like with Ryle, he was definitely going through Lily's phone, and if he had seen like Atlas's like saved contact information, he would have freaked out.
And we learned that the restaurant that they went to, Atlas is not the server, but he actually owned the restaurant. After Atlas leaves, we have a flashback to Lily reading her journal. And this was the part that she kind of hinted at not wanting to go back to read, because Atlas, being an unhomed 18-year-old when they were teenagers, had to find some place to live. And he had an uncle in Boston who said, okay, you can come live with me. And he went there for a while. And then a couple months later, he returns on Lily's 16th birthday as a surprise. And he told her, as soon as you turn 18, I'm going to come back and find you. I love you. I want to be with you, but right now is not the time for us. And that night they sleep together. And while they're laying in bed together, Lily's father walks in and finds Atlas in the bed and attacks him. And Atlas ends up in the hospital. And Lily does not hear from him again. And she has kept tabs on him online. She knew that he was alive. She knew that he went into the military. But she's just always wondered, why didn't he come back for me?
Later on now, Lily and Ryle are heading out to dinner with Elise and Marshall. And while she's in the shower getting ready, she hears a crash. She ignores it initially, but then she hears another crash and she gets out, gets dressed. And when she enters into the bedroom and the living room, she sees that things are knocked over. And immediately, Ryle is asking her, "What is this, Lily? Like, why do you have Alice's number? You're so lucky that when I called, he didn't pick up. Why did you do this?" And he is just not letting her explain, and he is just screaming at her. He leaves the apartment running down the stairs, and she follows after him, and she somehow like gets in front of him on the stairwell and is standing in front of him being like, "Please just let me explain, let's talk." And he shoves her, and when he shoves her, she falls down the stairs because she like lives in a walk-up building, and she passes out after falling down the stairs because she hits her head. And immediately she wakes up a few seconds later and she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And he's like, "You fell down the stairs." And she's like, "No,
No, you pushed me.
yeah, you pushed me down the stairs. I was holding on to your shirt." She is just freaking out internally throughout this part. And he's just being very like he's being very much like a matter of fact attached doctor. And he's like, "You might have a concussion, you have some swelling, you might need to get like your eye bandaged up, like all these things, like just being very matter of fact about what he did to her. And he doesn't really want to talk.
So they end up missing dinner because of this really bad incident. And the next day, she talks to Elisa, and Elisa says, Ryle needs to talk to you. Ryle needs to tell you. And we know that there's something big that we don't know. And we learn that when Ryle was 6 years old, he was playing with his parents' gun and accidentally shot his brother, and his brother died because of it. And since then, he's had these moments of rage where he does not remember what happens. He gets very, very angry and he becomes violent. And Lily had not known this about Ryle.
So following Ryle, due to Elise's prompting, sharing with Lily his childhood trauma of accidentally killing his brother, their parents are coming to town. Marshall and Elise are expecting a baby. While they're there one night, Lily and Elise are in her room and they're chatting. And she's like, "If you would marry my brother, would you do it? Would you do it today?" And Lily's like, "Yes, of course. I'd love to marry him. I love him. But, it's probably going to be a few years before that is going to happen because, like I have my plans, he has his plans. And more importantly, he told me he would never get married or have kids. So, like, it's not really something that's going to happen immediately." And of course, while they're chatting about this, Ryle is standing in the doorway, being a creep, listening in.
And he's like, "I'd marry you tomorrow, Lily." Impulsively, family trip to Vegas.
Yeah, they wake up their parents, Elise and Ryle's parents who are sleeping in the room down the hall, who are jet lagged because they just got into town.
From London.
Yep. And they then call her mother, and her mother is woken up, and everyone heads to the airport.
So they get married, and Lily and Ryle go to the hospital because it's time for Elisa to have her baby. And they name the baby after Ryle, and she is Riley. And she's like, "Oh, I love babies." And he's like, "Let's make one tonight." And she's like, "Okay, it's on." So she goes home and the lights are all off. So she's assuming that Ryle is sleeping. And when she walks into the kitchen, he's there. And she's like, "Oh my God, why are you here in the dark? What's going on?" And, he comes up to her and they start kissing. And she's like, "Well, we just moved into this apartment
That he bought without even telling her that he was purchasing it. And it's
in his sister's building."
yes, a few floors down.
So they've been christening every room in the condo and they haven't done it in the kitchen yet. So she's like, "Well, I guess tonight's the night." And she talks about how sometimes with them, the sex is kind of rough and a little bit of dangerous, but it's consensual. However, today she has this really bad feeling because right before, they started, he's holding this magnet that she's had her entire life that says it's better in Boston. And he asks, where did you get this magnet from? And she's like, oh, it's just some trinket I've always had.
She's like, I can't remember. I've had this magnet forever. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll take that. And he begins kissing her again, but again, quickly stops and looks at her and he's like, naked truth, Lily, like, where did you get the magnet? And Lily's like, why does he keep asking me this? What's going on? And he pulls her hair to force her to answer. And she says, that hurts. And he's like, oh, okay, sorry. And he starts kissing her again and stops again and then picks up the paper. And he's like, did you like get a chance to read the paper yet? Because she won this award earlier on in the day, saying that she's like one of the best new businesses in Boston. And he's questioning her, well, if you haven't read it, like you should read it out loud right now. And she's like, you want me to read this right now? And he's adamant that like, yep, we can pause this and you need to read this. But before reading it, you have to take your shirt off. And then she's like,
This is weird, but
yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as she reads it, it's also announcing the best new restaurant, which is Atlas's restaurant. And in the article, they ask him, well, who was the
reasoning behind why the restaurant was opening? Like, what made you open it? What named you what made you call it Bib, like better in Boston?
And he says, there was a special girl in my life who, this is dedicated to her. And they say, well, does she know? And he says, no comment. So, of course, Ryle is like, it's you, Lily, and you guys have this secret affair going on.
Mm-hmm.
And he rages out. And she and he have been working on strategies for when he is getting upset. And she's speaking to him calmly, trying to calm him down. And she walks to the bedroom.
Well, they're supposed to, like, in the past few chapters, when they would get into fights, they would separate. Like, he would leave the room, she would go to another room, or he would leave the apartment and come back in an hour. And these like coping mechanisms that they created with one another have been working up until now. Like, he is unwilling to pause here. And I guess something to note, like when she came home from the hospital, he had been drinking.
Yes.
He had been home for several hours because she left the hospital, went back to work, and now it's like 3 or 4 hours since she last saw him.
So she goes to the bedroom, and when she opens the door, on the bed is a box, one of her boxes from moving, where it has all of her old journals, all of her memorabilia from high school, just everything that has been private. And now he's clearly gone through it and he's read everything. And he ends up throwing her down on the bed. And she is having flashbacks to things that happened with her father. As the time passes, she's screaming and he headbutts her and she passes out. So when she comes to it, she's like, I need to leave. I'm not safe. I have to go. And she leaves the bedroom and she calls Atlas, because we learn that the day that Ryle found the number and she said, I forgot it was even there, she did not forget. She had this feeling in her gut that she would need this number one day because she was not fully safe and she had memorized his number. So she calls and she tells him where they are. And she's losing a lot of blood from her head wound that she now has. And when Atlas comes, he takes her to the hospital. And her first thing is, well, don't take me to Ryle's hospital.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody there to know. Let's go to a different one.
Because even though she hates him, she is still doing her best to protect him and his
Because she
career.
loves him.
Yeah, she does.
So when she goes there to get stitches, she also learns that she's pregnant. And now she's just like, oh my God. Like the moment that I've decided that this is no longer, now I know that I'm having his child. And she's very confused and worried and just scared. And she doesn't feel like she could go to a hotel because Ryle can track her credit card and know exactly where she is.
Mhm.
And Atlas offers, to stay at his place.
So she stays with Atlas for several days. She finally goes back to work a few days later, and while she's there, and walks Ryle, and he wants to talk. He tells her that he's going to England for 3 months to complete a program at Cambridge, and that she can go to the apartment. He's paid for everything, and she'll be fine there because he won't be there. And she says, "Okay," and he walks
He
out.
doesn't apologize.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, sorry for what I did. Are you okay? Nothing.
Yeah. And she also does not tell him at that time that she's pregnant because she's like, I can't share this with you. It's not safe to. And she doesn't know how. She's still processing the information, and she does not want to process the information with him at this time, which is completely right.
Absolutely. So she spends a couple of days at Atlas's house in his guest bedroom, and we learn a few things. We learn that the night he told us he was dating Cassie, that was a complete lie. Cassie did not exist. It was just his reply to him seeing Ryle. And then she kind of asked, why didn't you ever come back to look for me? And he said that he did go back after he left the Marines, and he saw her kissing a boy at college, and he was like, she's happy and I don't have my life together. I'm not ready for her. And he re-enlists into the Marine Corps.
Mhm.
And at that point, she's like, I think it's time for me to go home. And he says, if you ever find yourself in a place where you have space for love and you can fall in love again, please choose me. And Lily goes home at this point, and she's just keeping all of this a secret from everybody in her life.
Finally, one day when she's visiting baby Riley and Elise, what?
Elisa.
Yes. A few weeks later, Lily is visiting Elisa and baby Riley, and she asks her, like, how is everything? How's Ryle? Like, has he finally figured out the train system in Cambridge? And Lily's just like, yep, he figured it out. He's fine. And that she's then immediately caught in a lie by Elisa because, like, there is not a train system in Cambridge. And she's like,
Elisa is such a good friend.
yeah, yeah. She knew something was up, and she's like, what's going on? And she pushes Lily to share, and Lily tells her everything. She's surprised and shocked at what has happened between her and her brother, and she tells her, like, this is terrible what he's done to you, and you cannot stay with him. Like, and if you stay with him, I will not be your friend. Like, I can't be in your life if you stay with my brother who is hurting you.
This is why Elisa is like ride or die true friend. That's my brother, but he's totally messed up, and I care about you and
Yeah.
this baby that you are going to have. So Ryle ends up coming home 3 weeks after that, early. And when she walks in to the apartment, she sees him, and immediately she is fearful. She's like, I need to get out. And next to him is Marshall. And Marshall came downstairs from the penthouse because he is there as a security for Lily so that she feels safe in her home to speak to Ryle. And she feels sorry for him because these triggers that are there are not his fault. And she loves him, but he hurts her. And you cannot be with somebody who hurts you. He also finds out that she's pregnant at that point because she's wearing maternity clothes.
Mhm.
And he's clearly remorseful at this point. He kisses her stomach and he says, I just don't even know where to start. And when I'm reading that, I'm thinking, how about you just start by saying, I'm sorry? But instead, he says, you don't even know what I've been through these last few months. And she is very much triggered by you don't know what, I don't know what you've been through, Ryle. How
Yeah,
about you
like,
don't know what I've been through?
yeah, fuck you, dude. Look what you did. And then you just got to get up and leave me here and what the mess you caused.
Mm-hmm. And he said that the night after the last incident, when he woke up, he knew I would never have her again. And he came here to say goodbye and say, I'm so sorry, have a nice life. We're going our separate
Mhm.
ways. But now that she's with child, he's like, I cannot leave. I need things to go back to the way they were. I want to be your husband and the father to our child. And he starts to kiss her and she starts kissing him back because muscle memory. But as she's kissing him, she's getting flashbacks to the 3 incidents where he hit her,
Yeah.
and she starts to shut down.
And he then stops kissing her and backs away from her. And he's like, okay, like, you're not here with me in this moment. And he gets up to leave. And as he's leaving, she tells him that she wished the baby wasn't his. And she remarks in that moment that she felt like her father hurting Ryle in that way and being vindictive.
Now it's time to tell her mom that she's pregnant, and she goes to tell her mom, and she tells her mom everything. She keeps it vague with the domestic violence, but she does let her know what's been going on. And her mom is the person in her life who knows this kind of situation best because she lived it.
Mhm.
And she asks her a question that is really hard to answer, which is, do you want him back? And Lily's like, I don't know. I love him, but the trust is no longer there. And her mom gives her some advice, and she says, everyone has a limit. And if you keep letting somebody do something to you, your limit gets pushed back every time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't love you the way you deserve to be loved. If he did, he would say, I love you so much that I'm going to walk away from you because I am not good for you.
Lily's mom is incredibly strong for her in that moment and brings up her dad's funeral and says, like, I know we thought you were too choked up with emotion and that you couldn't speak, but I knew that you were using that moment of silence to acknowledge that there was nothing good about your father. And she was proud of Lily, like not faking it and lying about her father being a good man. And her mom was incredibly strong and tells Lily to take the same strength that she has and to be bold and to make the right decision for her and her future child.
So as the timeline continues, they have not spoken, Lily and Ryle, in 3 months. And she knows that they need to have a conversation, but she's nervous. She says, I'm not scared, but I'm just nervous. And he puts the crib together, and she starts to feel like maybe now we can have a conversation. And she's thinking, it would be so easy if I just took him back. Like, it would just be great. Insert husband here, insert father here, and life would be easier. But it's so hard to let him back in because this trust has been broken. And he tells her, I want everything back. And she says, I don't think so. I'm leaning towards divorce, but right now I am due in a month-ish. And now is not the time to really figure out what our future looks like.
Following their conversation to pause any conversation around the state of their relationship. Several weeks later, Ryle has moved back into the condo, but he's been staying on the couch while she sleeps in the guest bedroom. And 2 days before her due date, she goes into labor, her water breaks, and he's there to drive her to the hospital. And it's a very fast labor process. And so before they're even able to contact anyone to tell them they're in labor, she gives birth to their daughter. They decide to name their daughter after Ryle and Elisa's older brother, Emerson, who passed away during their childhood. And they named their daughter Emerson, Emma/Emmy for short. And as she's looking at her daughter, Emerson, she makes a decision around the state of their relationship. And as she's looking at her child, she's like, I can't put this child through the same life that she had with her parents. And she realizes that divorce is the best thing here in order for Ryle to have a relationship with his daughter, something that she was unable to have with her own father.
So, of course, he is crying and he's like, please, Lily, give me just one more chance. That's all I need, one more. And she knows that she has to break this cycle because if she stays with him, her daughter will grow up the way she did. And it's a continuous thing that's hard to stop. So she asked him, what would you do if somebody did this to her? What would you say to her? And she lists out the 3 incidents that they had. And he says, I would beg her to leave him. And at that point, he understands what Lily is deciding for us is the decision that we need to do. We need to break this cycle for Emmy's sake.
Yeah.
So we end with an epilogue, and we are 11 months into the future. And we learn that Lily and Emmy have an apartment that they got, and she is running late to meet Ryle. And she runs into Atlas on the street and explains, oh, yeah, it's Ryle's day to have her, because he does first think, oh God, they're still together.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, 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 it's his day. So she races down, does the handoff with the baby, and runs back to catch up to Atlas. And when she catches up, the first thing she says to him is her middle name is Dory.
Yeah, which is like the cutest thing ever because throughout the storyline, when you are reading Lily's journal entries, something that her and Atlas would say to one another is to
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming.
yeah, Finding Nemo was that girl. And
I love Finding Nemo. I think I need to watch it tonight.
yeah, it was literally something that they could look at too as like I guess like a mantra, not mantra. Yeah, they looked at it as a mantra to move forward and to try and stay above water in their respective lives as they went through so many different traumatic events. And once she tells him that like the baby's middle name is Dory, like he hugs her and says like his life is good enough for her now if she's ready. And she's thinking through this all and she's like, yeah, like I think I'm ready, but like I have to ask him my like set list of questions that she asks every potential partner, which is in order to like determine if he's different from her dad, which is like, do you donate to charity?
Yes.
Do you want kids?
Yes.
And do you plan to leave Boston?
No, because everything is better in Boston.
Exactly. And she's like, I'm ready for a relationship now. I'm in a good place. Let's try.
And that is how it ends with us. Ends.
They can stop swimming. They've made it to the shore.
Oh, tears. Tears.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character in this book? I'm going to go first. Elisa's my favorite character. You cannot take her. I love Elisa. Elisa is a true friend, and she's very, very supportive of her friend. And she's not afraid to call somebody out. Who's your favorite character? Elisa? There aren't that many.
She's definitely one of my, I wouldn't call her my favorite character. Mainly because I didn't initially when she found out about the first time, I guess like, well, I'm sorry, the second time Ryle had hurt Lily, I don't think she was as honest with Lily or herself or Ryle as she could have been.
But question, was that in her mind the first time?
That in her mind was the first time, but I also like we don't get any dialogue around this, but I'd imagine she did not ask for any clarifying questions, and more importantly, like Ryle did ambush her before Lily could even talk to her because he had made it to the flower store before Lily had gotten there and they had spoken. But for that one thing, I like it's just in the back of my mind, like which is why I don't think I'd consider her my favorite because like she knew something had happened and she didn't dig. And I'm like, what is the reason behind why? Because like we all get those feelings and we have some information, but like to typically piece something fully together, we have to ask those clarifying questions, which is hard to do. And it was clearly hard for her to do, which is why she didn't do it. But nonetheless, I would
think
say
you're putting things onto Elisa that are not there.
yeah, it's subjective. So My favorite character is Lily's mom, and it's only due to the fact that when her daughter needed her most, she chose to tell the truth to Lily for the first time in Lily's life, which was, I knew you were honoring me in the moment when you said nothing positive about your father, and you have always honored and stood up for me when no one else would. And I thought that her mom in that part of the novel, yeah, like she just really stood in her strength and spoke truth to her daughter so that her daughter would eventually have the courage to leave Ryle. So
I get it, but I wonder, and you see, I'm putting things onto the character. If Lily had never ended up in a situation like this, Lily would have never known that her mom was proud of her at the funeral because she would have never said it.
exactly, that is true. She would have thought that her mom was disappointed in her because she choked and that her uncle had to just like
Mhm.
escort her down from the stage. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think all the characters here are flawed.
Yeah, they are. Which, when it comes
It's
to,
life.
yeah, we're all flawed human beings. This is the type of book where it's hard to have a favorite character because they're all so human. And I don't have a favorite human. I just have humans that I like.
You mean your favorite human? Yes.
Sure.
Sure. Thanks.
What are you reading right now?
So I recently finished The Governess and the Orc. It's in the Orc series by Finley Fenn. And this is book 7. And I've read all the books so far, but book 7, we have an African American woman who is living in on the continent, and she's a teacher, and she ends up getting taken by this orc and going to Orc Mountain, where it's all a ruse, where she's pretending that they're together, and together they're outsmarting everybody. And of course, they end up falling in love, and she becomes the teacher to all the little orclings living in Orc Mountain. So that is The Governess and the Orc by Finley Fenn.
You read the most interesting things in your free time.
Do. Yeah. What about you?
Big sigh. I'm currently reading The Duke Undone by Joanna Lowe. This is highly recommended by our mother. It is about a artist named Lucy who paints a naked man that she sees on the street of Shoreditch.
Scandalous.
Very scandalous. And the man that she paints is a duke, the Duke of Weston, Antony. And this book is just about him figuring out who painted him and then him forming a relationship with her in order to move forward their various. I don't know. I'm not that far into it.
How did she paint him naked without him knowing?
He is passed out on the street, drunk.
Oh,
She stumbles across him, and because she's an artist, she immediately begins to like detail his body and like commits it to memory and then paints a portrait of him, which he
got
then
it.
comes across because she sells it to an aristocratic lady whose husband then finds it and then like goes to him angrily being like, why does my
Ooh.
wife have a naked
Porn.
portrait of you? Exactly. And they now have to like join forces like for her to save her aunt's shop, well, like the shops on the street that her aunt lives and works on. And then he also needs to like keep his name out of the paper and in good standing because in order for him to like inherit his title and his inheritance, he has to, stay in good standing with his uncle. Well, not his uncle. This guy is like a family friend / person.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. Next week, we will be covering The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas.
Yeah, so
Such a good book, you guys. If you have not read it, crack it open.
Yeah, I will be cracking it open this upcoming week. So
So good, so good, so good.
yeah, looking forward to chatting with you all then. So we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.